Hey guys, welcome to another webinar of OpenLM. I am Saki and I will be your host for the next 30 minutes where we will talk about the end user. All about the end user. What does that mean? And why should you care about the end user? You're probably licensed admins, experienced licensed admins. You give out the amount of licenses that you think is correct for a certain group, and that's it, right? But the end users have a lot of power. They can also help you get the system working more efficiently. Now, OpenLM can help them do that. Let me show you how. First of all, let's talk about the end user himself. So, who's the end user? Basically, an application user, someone who gets a license out of license managers that you set up, and he has a lot of stresses on his job. First of all, he is pretty insignificant. He can't really choose which server, which license, which he has limited capabilities. The end user himself doesn't have a lot of sway and a lot of power when it comes to deciding on licenses. They use what you give them. They are using the software, but they are under a lot of stress. They're under the most amount of stress because they need the license and they need it to work. If they don't work, then basically their boss tells them, "Hey, why aren't you working? Why aren't you completing your tasks? Where are the projects you said you'd do?" And then he tries to explain, "I didn't have any licenses," and so on. I waited for licenses, meaning that if your end users are waiting for licenses, then that's not good. You're wasting money. If you have too many licenses and, well, they don't have a second that they're not working, but you have just way too many licenses, that's also not so good. So admins always try to keep a balance of the amount of licenses and the amount of users that they have using. And this creates a lot of stress on the end user himself, because that balance sometimes means that the end user won't get the license that he needs. And he will just sit there waiting for the license, and the clock is ticking. Now, as I said, he has almost no influence on the company. Like he can call the license admin and say, "Hey, I need a license," and the license admin can try and find a license somewhere, maybe on another user's machine that's been using for too long. Then he starts making calls or checks the OpenLM system. Basically, the user himself is, well, it doesn't have a lot of power. So OpenLM comes to empower this user. Because if the users are informed, then they can help you. If they know what they have and know what's available, they can help you increase the availability of licenses. Okay, but first of all, how do we get users into OpenLM? I probably already know, but here are all the ways for OpenLM to get users. Now, first and foremost, license output. You connect to a license manager. The license manager is telling us Sagi is using Autodesk. So we're taking the username Sagi, but that's all we got. We got the username, that's it. You can also manually input it. You can input the users and their groups. You can manually input their details. This way they have their whole details. But if you got a lot of users, well, that might be time consuming, and you might want to use a CSV file. You just type in everything in the CSV file, the username, the title, department, phone number, everything that you need. Get a list of all the users and all their groups, and just load them into OpenLM. The other option is to use options files. Now in options files, you can define in group named group 1, you will have this, this, and that. You will have him, him, and him. You'll have Yossi, Moti, and Fritz. Now, OpenLM will get those users from the options files. It can also write the users to the options file, but that's a different webinar. So we get the usernames from there, but also only usernames. We don't have descriptions yet, nothing. If you want to fill in descriptions, if you want to get all the users from your Active Directory, you can synchronize OpenLM with your Active Directory to just get all the users from it. You get all their users, all their details, and you can even get all the groups that you might have there. So let's talk about this for a second, because this is the most prevalent use of groups and users details in OpenLM. It's used with the Active Directory. Now with the Active Directory, you can get those users and you can group them into three formats, basically. You can group them just as a flat group. Say all these users under this node will be group support. You can keep the hierarchy. If you have a hierarchy of nodes inside your Active Directory, you can just keep the hierarchy, or just keep the structure of groups you already have, security groups and so on. Just keep the hierarchy. And lastly, you can define user groups by their attributes. For example, attribute department, you'll get all the users grouped into their own department. Whomever is from support will go to support, sales to sales, and so on. Now let me jump over to a live system just to show you this configuration in action. So you'll need to open up the OpenLM server configuration tool. And click on LDAP, the LDAP tab. Now let's add a domain. And let's say we've added a domain. You need to add your Active Directory domain. So let's apply and add synchronization. So we can give it a name and select the node. Select the synchronization, sync only the active users, and right here you see that we can define if to name a certain node, all the users under that node. Let's say everybody will be under group Germany. Make sure to set default group, because then all the usage will be assigned to those groups. If this is unchecked, it will not be assigned. You'll just have the groups, users in groups. Hierarchy, the same. You should choose one of them. For example, you want to keep only the OUs, only want to keep the structure of only the security group, and so on, or only the distribution groups. You can decide to do that and set default group. User attributes, which is widely used. For example, you select department and users automatically will be grouped by their department. So it's that simple. It gets everything, all the users, all the groups, just as once. You can set up different synchronizations for different groups and different hierarchies, or maybe different Active Directories, depending on what you need. Now, all this you can just use the group usage in all of our reports. Just group the users by their organizational group, by the group that you got from the Active Directory, or any of the other ways. But okay, let's get this into context. Now we see how OpenLM can incorporate those users into OpenLM. Now it can incorporate their details, user details, but also user logins. That means that they can use their user login to log in to the OpenLM system, to the OpenLM interface itself. Meaning that what they'll need to do is simply from their web browser, they'll simply need to access the machine that holds OpenLM server, the host that holds OpenLM server. In my case, it's demo v4. They can access the EasyAdmin, we call it, just using their own Active Directory credentials, using their own IIS, Windows Authenticated credentials. And then you can set up their roles. What does that mean, roles? That means that different users will be able to see different things in OpenLM. Now keep in mind that this requires an SMTP server to be configured because you'll get an approval by email. But if you don't want to use that, you can also use the embedded security option and not use an SMTP server for it. So let's jump back to the system right here and take a look at the roles. So clicking on administration, going to roles, we can see here, let's take this admin role, for example. Let's click on it and see what's inside it. One moment, let's refresh. Okay, while this is refreshing, I'm going to explain what you can do with the roles and permissions extension. Basically, let's say you got different stakeholders. You got an admin, or let's say you got an end user, or you got the manager, and you want them to see different things. So first of all, the end users. You want the end users themselves to be able to see license servers, for example. So we can click here, click on users, see all the users inside, not a lot of users inside. We can select the groups and see all the groups inside. Then go to resources. Now, which resources we see here? Basically, it's everything that OpenLM has. Display data of server ArcGIS over any panel in OpenLM user interface. Just whatever you want. We can add or remove any visibility from OpenLM. So we can show columns, hide columns, deny users from seeing different parts of OpenLM. So basically, you can set up groups of users that when they access OpenLM, the only thing that they see is licensed servers, only the licensed server that they need, and this is the only thing that they'll be able to open. Or maybe you only want them to be able to open feature usage status, so they see only the feature that they're interested in seeing. Okay, so let's continue. Now what else? We want these users to be able to see the same data, but well, maybe they don't have access to OpenLM. Maybe you don't want them to have access to OpenLM. Or just you don't want to mess around with different roles and different groups and all that. So what you can do, you can simply have the OpenLM agent installed on the end user workstation. So the agent component is a very lightweight component which enables the end user to see what's going on with licenses that they need. For example, I need MATLAB, so I access this interface on my workstation and I see what's going on with MATLAB currently, what's the total number, and so on. How many are used, how many are free, and I'll know what to do as an end user. Also, as an end user, if I get denied, I don't need to try and get the license again and again and again and again and again. All I need to do is to simply wait for the OpenLM agent to notify me that, hey, you remember the license you got denied from? Well, now it's free. So let me take you there for a second. Sorry about that. Okay, so let me show you that in action. Let's go to a workstation again. And now, let's say I want to use AutoCAD, but I don't know if it's free, if it's not free, maybe I'm not able to get it. So all I need to do is click here on the OpenLM icon, license usage information. So what am I seeing here? For example, grid. I need grid, ArcGIS. I got 5. Currently 4 are being used and 1 is available. So let's say it was not available at all. So what should I do? Well, I just click it and I see who's using it. I see Emma, Taylor, Will, Willie, Neil. I see all of them using it. And I see when they started, which workstation they're working out of, etc., even if it's borrowed. Now, the admin can define exactly what I will be able to see. So the admin can define, hey, you can't see Autodesk, only ArcGIS. Or hey, you won't be able to see workstations, you won't be able to see this start time, only if it's borrowed and the username, for example. Now, if you have it connected to Active Directory, when you click on the user, you'll also get the user details themselves. But of course, you can hide that from the user himself. So, do you need to install the agent on all the workstations? Is it mandatory? No, only if you want to get the functionality for the end users to be able to see license usage information. We don't have to have that for OpenLM to function. It functions well without it. This is for added functionality. So now, how can we enable it? Let's go back to our interface. We'll go to Start, Administration. Now, we would like to enable it, the agent policy. Let's click on that. And we can choose to hide it or show it, the license usage information. We can hide the exit or the configuration. But if you want them to have license usage information, it's this one. Now you don't have to install one by one, as I said. You can just roll it out to using your SCCM, using your GPO. Your organization's Windows tools can help us install the agent just at once on many different workstations using one click. So I have a question here. Okay, I have a question from Edward asking about options files. Users, reservations only works if they're off-site using VPN. So we can take this offline and talk about it with our support team. Can take a closer look into it because it seems to be an issue with the FlexLM itself, not something that OpenLM can handle. Another question from Frank, is OpenLM capable to consume and analyze encrypted report log files? Now, no, this is not a part of this webinar. If you like, we have the core functionality webinar, which talks about the fact that we don't need report logs, basically. We monitor everything else. Debug log, options file, license output, license file. We monitor everything. We don't need the debug log. We get all the information from there. But please send us more questions to support@openlm.com and we'll be happy to assist. Okay, so continuing, but that's very good. If you have any more questions, just stop me, let me know. Just go ahead and ask. So we were here. What are we seeing here? What is this? What else do we have here? Available license notification. Well, what does that mean? That means if someone gets denied, he'll get a notification once the license he has is now free. Basically, if I go to a workstation, I get a license, or at least I try to get a license. And let's say that on this one I did get the license. Now let's try and get it on another workstation. So you know what, let's close it here, have it open here, and we'll simply get ourselves denied and then see what's happening once a user got denied, what OpenLM does. So this is Win 10 demo. Let's get a license. And we also want to get a license from demo v4. So once the users themselves are more informed, have more information regarding the licenses that they need, meaning they know who is using it, they know when they're using it from, how long they've been using it, then the end users can sort it out among themselves. Basically, the end users can call each other up, say, hey, I need the license that you have now. Can you please release the license? Now, what does that do? That basically frees you up from calling up users, from answering users, calling up new users, telling them, hey, I need the license for this and that. And they'll try to explain, I know I need the license, I need it for this, I need it for that. Basically, they can get notified by themselves. They don't need you. They can see themselves what's going on. Okay, so this will take a while to get up and running. Basically, once you have a denial and a license is freed up, you get a notification on it. Okay, so let's go back to our presentation. And now I would like to have a short Q&A session. Basically, have you ask all the questions that you need. You've seen how OpenLM helps you to empower your end users by telling him what he has. Basically, the end user is in the dark. He's trying to get a license. He clicks on an icon, but then it tells him you're denied or not. That's it. That's all he got. So OpenLM helps him to plan ahead, and he'll know that he'll need it. So he'll know who to call, you know who to talk to, and all the phone calls that you get, basically, they'll call each other. And you get freed up, and they get a lot of power out of that. Now, Frank is asking, is it possible to calculate token consumption rates for Autodesk software? Well, yes, we do have that option. Let me show you. Going to Report Token Flex. I'm not sure I have data here for it, but it will show you the token usage, the double token consumption, and also released idle licenses. I'm not going to have any data. No, probably not. What Frank is referring to is the new model of FlexLM that is called Token Flex. That is basically tokens, which are single-use tokens, which are expired at the end of the year. They are not shared between users, and that also expire for a session every 24 hours. So it's like tokens, but much worse. So you got the token usage, the amount of token time, you got also double token consumption. That means I'm using until 12, and then from 12, it's like I'm starting a new session. It cuts my session in half and says, okay, now from now on, it's another set of tokens. Well, you can get a report on that showing that, hey, here you got 2 sets of token being taken for the same session. So also released idle licenses means that before that time comes, we can release the license. We can release the license before it takes another set of tokens, if it's idling, providing it's idling, of course. How will OpenLM function under Autodesk transition plan for licensing by user? Oh, I heard about that. I did some statistics on that. They say for every user, for every license you have, we'll give you 2, meaning statistically 2 users use a license. Well, personally, I don't think this is true, because it really depends on which feature you're talking about, which product you're talking about. We've checked with many clients. Well, we've seen that it can be beneficial and it can be very not beneficial. Basically, I don't recommend it for most cases, but some cases it actually works for it. Actually decreases the amount of licenses, but that's a small amount of cases that I've seen. Basically, but looking at it, it's probably the worst utilization for a license, because a user named license is just 1-to-1. One user, one license, that's it. That's the utilization you can get. Floating license, you can get utilization of 10-to-1, 20-to-1. You can get a lot of users using the same license. Even tokens, you can get more out of named. But again, it depends which application. It depends on your organization. Depends on a lot of things. For example, also you should check if the username gets a license just of a feature or from a catalog. Because let's talk about tokens, for example. Tokens, you get, just take everything from a catalog. You get a full catalog and you just pay the amount of tokens that you need, and that's it. You don't need to buy each license. So check that as well. If the usernames that you buy, are they usernamed for a catalog of products or just one product? Then you gotta buy each product again and again and again, and you got, for each product you got to buy the new user and so on. This is how they get you. So check. Oh, Frank, by the way, we have a webinar on tokens. You should check online when we have the next webinar on token flex and different types of licenses. We'll have a webinar, I think it's next week. We'll talk about named and network licenses, how they moved to floating licenses, how they moved to token licenses, then to token flex licenses, and now they're like rolling back to user licenses. So we also have a webinar on that, very interesting. You can check online and see when it's on. Okay, Edward is asking about the scheduler. I can't operate scheduler. It needs to connect to port 7014. Can this be direct, but not from any other workstation? Yeah, it has to be direct. I believe you can use it from another server. You can install the scheduler on a different servers than OpenLM server. It's possible. Just configure the remote OpenLM server on there and it should work. It just uses, as you said, port 7014, but it might use some registries there. Then test it out. It should work, but if it doesn't, then test it on the same machine itself. Remember to use Chrome driver. The new version of scheduler requires Chrome driver. We have that in our documentation. If you go to the OpenLM website, you'll see that in our documentation. Just download the Chrome driver, install that, and it works. If you don't install Chrome driver, when you want to schedule, it will just say error scheduling, cannot schedule. So know that you'll need that component. Let me get you there. I'll go to the OpenLM website. And if you just do a search for report scheduler, you'll see two types of documentation. We have KB documentation and HT documentation. KB is knowledge base. It holds everything. HT is just how to. Just get up and go. What do I need to do? Boom, 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 to get like the most basic operational system up and running for each component. Just most basic. If you want just everything, explanation and all that, use KB. If you want just a how-to, use HT. So for the report scheduler, we have updating Chrome driver for report scheduler. Just click here and you have a full documentation, a list, a step-by-step list telling you what you need to do and how to set this up. Oh, no problem. Happy to give you the token flex information. You can get it online as well. Token flex, token-flex, and you should find it here. The Autodesk token flex and token flex configuration. Okay, so if no one has any more questions, I will direct you to our OpenLM website. Go to About Us, contact us. And if you have any more questions for us, anything that I've covered, or maybe I didn't cover, any support issues, any sales issues, just go ahead, send us an email. You can just click here to send us an email to support@openlm.com or sales@openlm.com. You can just call us up on any of these phone numbers. We got USA, India, Japan, many different numbers. You can just click here and you'll start a support chat with us. Now, this is the fastest way to get in touch with us. It rings all across our offices. Someone will pick it up. You get different languages here. And that's about it. Thank you very much for joining me on this webinar today. I really hope that you enjoyed it, that you learned something that you didn't know about OpenLM. If you need help setting up the agent, then you can just contact us, contact support, but you can also download it and try it yourself now. Everything that you've seen does not require any licensing, does not require extension. It's already in your bundle. So if you purchased OpenLM, you have this. You're just not using it. is just go to the download section, client area, scroll down, and you have the OpenLM agent. Now all you need to do is just install it on the end user workstation and point it to OpenLM server. Now, if you'll be using SCCM or GPO, you can just use a script, and the script tells the agent where to point to, and that's it. As I said, you can roll it out using SCCM, you can roll it out using GPO. If you want to see how, just type in SCCM in our search, and that will probably be the first thing that you'll see, how to roll out the agent using SCCM. We also are capable of rolling it out using GPO, but let us know. Contact us, and we'll be happy to go live with you and set this up. Okay, and that's it. Thanks, guys. Bye. Okay, Frank and Edward, you're the last here, so thank you very, very much for the questions as well. I have to close the session, which will kick you out, so I'm sorry about that. Have a great day, guys.